No.
Oh, we are ready.
That'd be all right.
My phone.
All over the new TV.
Are we good? I'm gonna call the meeting to order.
You ready?
Yep. I'd like to call the Monday, March 14th, 2022 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting to order, please. If we could all stand, face the flag, and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up on our agenda is roll call.
Mr. Gazoon.
Yes.
Mr. Krug.
Here.
Chair McAlpine.
Here.
Mr. McDonald.
Here.
Mr. Euler.
Here.
Mrs. Ward.
Here.
Mr. Wilner.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Perfect. Okay, next up on our agenda, after we've confirmed we have a quorum, is the approval of the agenda. It has been presented to us. It was in our packet that we received last week as well. If everyone can take a quick look at it, and if there's any revisions or additions, we will discuss those at this point. If not, we will take a motion to approve the agenda as been presented.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
So motion by Gazoon, support by Ward. Gazoon,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Wilner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next up is the approval of the minutes from our meeting that was on February 14th. Those were also included in our packet. If there are any revisions or changes, additions that need to be made to those, we will entertain those now. If not, we will need a motion to approve the minutes from the February 14th, 2022 meeting.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from the February 14th meeting.
I'll support.
Motion by Ward, support by Krug. Wilner,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Krug,
Yes.
Gazoon.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I don't believe we have any old business to discuss, so we will move on to new business, which is application PBA 02-22, which is at 2233 Earlmont. The request is for a dimensional variance to construct a new house to be attached to the existing detached garage that encroaches into the required 5-foot side yard setback and creates a combined side yard setback of less than the required 15 feet. The petitioner is Dale Good Courage. It is parcel 2517108-004, south side of Earlmont between Berkley and Henley Avenue. If you'd like to go ahead and give us the background, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. So the applicant's requesting a dimensional variance to construct a single-family home that's proposed to be 4 feet, 7.5 inches from the side lot to the west, and is creating a combined side yard setback of 12 feet, 1.5 inches. The schedule of regulation calls for a minimum of 5 feet for that side yard setback and a minimum of 15 feet for the total assuming there are 2 side yard setbacks. Usually there are. The subject property is zoned R1D, and is a single-family detached dwelling there now and proposed to be as well. And it is surrounded by the similar land use. When we looked in the building files for this property, they had records of improvements to a single-family home dating back to 1970. In 1982, a building permit for a 12-foot by 12-foot shed in the approximate location of the existing garage was used, with a 3-foot setback from the side lot line. There's no documentation of expansion to that shed or garage in either the city's building files or electronic documents. The garage location was in a non-conforming as the current accessory buildings are called to be at least 5 feet from the side lot line unless fire separation has been installed. The scope of the project is that the applicant is proposing to demolish the existing home and the detached garage, and then build a 2-story, single-family house with an attached garage at the southwest corner of the building. If you'll look at the plans, they're proposing to use the existing foundation of the current house. And so that becomes important because that's what they are saying is the unique circumstance of the property that's causing the need for the variances. The garage is proposed to be connected to the house via the second story. That second story is cantilevered over the driveway. Sometimes it's hard to miss when you hard to see when you first look at the drawings. However, in some discussions tonight, it seems like, and we would like clarification from the applicant as to whether there is an interior connection on the second floor between the dwelling area above the garage and the main floor of the house. If there was, some folks were missing it. It didn't appear to be a connection internally. So I think I summarized what the 2 setback request is. The one for the minimum side yard is very small, for 4.5 inches. And if you find that there is that unique circumstance of those foundation walls, is the unique circumstance because those do not perfectly align parallel to the existing lot line. So you can see at the top, it's a little more than 4 feet, but when you go back all the way, it's more than 5 feet. So there's just that slight difference in alignment is what's causing the need for the variance because they're using those 2 walls. However, keep in mind they are demolishing this entire structure. In terms of in terms of the combined yards, it's 15 feet, and they're asking for a variance of 2 feet, 10.5 inches, which is not necessarily commensurate with the 2.5, the request for the 1 side yard. So we've had 2, as you know, you have standards for review. The need for the variance is due to unique circumstances and physical conditions of the property. The need of the variance is not the result of the actions of the property owner or previous property owners. Strict compliance with the ordinance would unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or render the conformity with those regulations unnecessarily burdensome. The requested variance is the minimum variance necessary to do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners, and the requested variance will not adversely impact the surrounding properties. I'm saying all of those right now, and I'm gonna go through some of the unique circumstances by each variance. So for the side yard setback, again, as I said, they've stated it's because they're using those foundation walls, and they're just a little bit off in terms of being truly parallel to that lot line. And so you could deem that a unique physical condition of the property. In terms of the need of the variance not being the results of the actions of the property owner, the previous property owners, obviously, they didn't have any control over where the foundation walls are, but there is a choice to use them. And a single-family home in compliance with the setbacks for the principal residence exists on the lot currently. Strict compliance with the ordinance would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property as a permitted purpose. For both cases, and also for, not being the actions, for both cases, strict compliance is possible because there's an existing house there. There are also several new builds on that block. I don't know whether they've received a variance before. I think your historical knowledge, you would know better than I would. The requested variance is the minimum necessary to do substantial justice. In terms of the side yard setback, the single side yard setback, yeah, that probably is the minimum because of where the line is, if you see that's a unique circumstance. But if you look in the combined yard setback, is it possible that that wall to the east could not extend as far? And that's something that you would have to look at. Also keeping in mind about what would be usable space within the home, and looking at that. But they've made several design choices that has gotten to this point where the variances are being requested. In terms of the variancing request would not adversely impact the surrounding properties. The one for the side yard to the west, that would be 19 feet, 9.5 inches from the dwelling on the adjacent property. And so would likely not impact those surrounding properties. We haven't gotten any letters on either way in terms of support or against. I understand the applicant had some in their PowerPoint, which hopefully we'll get up here, and then see whether, and then in terms of the requested variance for the combined side yards, this single-family house is proposed is taller and wider than many of the older homes on surrounding properties on that block, but its design in terms of height and width does match those that are newer construction that are on the block, especially if you look at those across the way, directly across. And so I think really this is another finding that you should look at and discuss amongst yourselves in terms of whether that width of the proposed house, which is affected by this combined side lot variance, would adversely impact the surrounding properties. And so, again, as you know, for a variance, either variance to be approved, it needs to meet the standards of the zoning ordinance based on findings of fact. Be happy to answer any questions, or we can turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about the presentation? Okay, so if there are no questions, then I would ask that the petitioner come forward, state their name and address for the record, and tell us about what you're requesting, please.
Sure. Thank you. My name's Tim Glenn. I currently reside at 2365 Earlmont, previously 2254 Earlmont before that. It was explained pretty well, everything that we're looking to do at the current address that we're discussing, 2233 Earlmont. We have this up. I put together this with really nice animations and transitions, so it'll make me look a lot more professional. So, but yeah, everything was explained as is. So the current foundation will stay in place. The current driveway will stay in place. We'll be adding to the east side of 2233, as explained, adding a new garage, which will also have living space above it that will be connected both on the exterior and interior of the home. So if you want to roll through that, that'd be great. So just kind of an overview of everything we're talking about. I think we went through what is being done, final product. If we keep going through it, we just have kind of snippets of what the plan currently looks like that you've seen. The east side addition that we're asking for the variance on, we kept that to a single story. Just so we just kept it as a single story, vaulted ceilings on the inside. Again, as explained, you can see the garage in the back. It's a two-dimensional photo, so it's hard to tell, but it is a cantilevered living space above, so the actual first floor won't impede on that building envelope. It would just be the second floor, which also connects to the garage behind. These are just some of again, from the plan. This is foundation plan, kind of maps out, which you have all seen, existing foundation with the new addition on the east side and the new foundation for the garage, which will have living space above it and cantilevered out to where you see those columns. You also see, obviously, the lot fit. We tried to keep it as minimal as possible to make livable space that was usable specifically for the living room. Those pictures there are just kind of to show how the house is currently positioned. I'm sure many have driven by, but how it's positioned on the lot when it was originally built, allowing us what we can minimally on the east side and for the garage. The driveway is fairly new. Previous owner redid the driveway. We want to keep that in place. We want to, obviously, the shed, which I think was, it's a small garage, 12 by 12, which was what was discussed earlier. That will be torn down with a two-car garage put up in the living space above that. I do have some letters I can provide physical copies of as well. We spoke with, obviously the red circled is current site that we're discussing. Any of the ones in yellow are homeowners that we sat down with, reviewed the plan, reviewed the site plan, and then obviously some of these are just snippets of the letters that I can provide you physical copies of. The green highlighted home, which there's also a picture of, is also a house that my family lived in previously, that we did the renovation on to that as well. So we do know the homeowners right across the street as well. They are going to provide a letter, but they didn't provide it yet. So other than that, that's questions. I think the only other thing I would add is my in-laws will be, Dale Goodcourage, who's the property owner currently, will be residing in the home with me. So please take that into consideration, because I should be granted it just on that alone. If you guys know him, no, I'm just kidding. But anyway. Any questions, comments?
Actually, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Do you want the letters that the applicant have given to you, or do we just receive them and they go straight in the file?
I think we can receive them and go straight in the file, just given that we have them in the packet, and
Yeah.
does that seem, I think that seems appropriate.
I guess I have a question. So is the foundation is not being expanded at all? Like the,
Just on the new garage, we'll have new footings underneath it, and then we'll have new footings for the east side addition.
okay.
So, but the current, we're not cutting into the existing basement by any means. No, we will just be doweling in, yep.
Are there any questions? Ms. Ward?
I'm a bit confused.
Sure.
Under the scope of the project, which was provided to us by our interim community development director, it says the garage is proposed to be connected to the house via the second story, which will be cantilevered over the driveway. So the first floor of the garage will not be attached to the home, but the only way you can get to the garage is you have to go upstairs and walk across a bridge or a hallway or something into the garage, and then walk down steps to get to your cars. Is that correct?
There'll be a staircase in the garage, yes, to get down to the first floor of the garage. And then there'll also be entryway from the second floor into the living space above the garage.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes. Mr. Gazan?
So the garage is 10 feet high, and then the second story that's above it is above that 10 feet,
That's correct.
right? Okay.
Yeah, so the floor plate above the garage is gonna be the same height as the home itself. So all of the heights of the walls will match up from home into garage.
Okay, I'm just wondering if there's a large truck or something that's not gonna be able to.
Yeah, so the foundation at the property, it's already about 2 feet out of the ground, and then we have a joist there, so call that a foot, and then another 9-foot plate. So that's going to sit about 12 feet out of the ground, just to bottom of second floor joist.
Okay,
So
yeah, it just seems kind of tight to me.
yeah, no. So I mean, a standard garage door is probably 7 feet. So the driving area underneath would be exceed more than a normal garage.
Okay.
So the only thing impeding on the overall variance is the second floor, correct? The cantilever. First floor is not,
No,
No, the east side of the first floor.
the east side, the new addition, the east side of the
The
first.
living room.
no.
The whole house is
So,
Yeah.
big.
so the whole house, so here, this side, that's the 4 feet, 9.5 inches. And then as you go back, once you get here, it's 5 feet, it's over 5 feet, because this line is on a slightly different angle than this.
Yeah, I don't mean the four, I mean the overall.
The overall is this side yard plus this side yard. So this side yard, I think, is 7 feet something, correct?
7.5, I think.
7.5. So it would be possible, if you're asking if it's the minimum amount, or could it be conforming? If you looked at this, yes, probably some of that could be taken off. However, when you look at the width of the house and the width of the house, and then if you bump this in by 2 feet, this may not become a functional room at all. And I'm gonna defer to your architect to talk about this. And then there's some balance here in terms of the design. If you look at the front of it, as I scroll down, you'll see that they made this part's that part that's to the west. They kind of made these two visually and this to balance off this side. You could imagine this without this whole room, with this whole addition not being there. But again, would ask questions to the applicant about how that would affect then the usable space within. This is one of the, there are lots that are not as wide as this one on the block, but there are lots that are wider than this one as well. So on the second variance, I think probably one of the questions for you to look at is this width, the minimum width necessary in order for a house to be there? And they have specific constraints that they've set on their design. And they've also said that if you look at the footings plan, I think, which is up here, is that the right one?
That's the right one. Yep.
So you can see that the footing of the house is through here, and they're putting you said there's new footings on that addition, on that bump out to the west.
Okay. So is there a reason there's a kitchen on the first floor and on the second floor?
For our in-laws on the second floor above the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just so they have their own kitchenette area.
But that's where all the bedrooms are on the upstairs, right? So it's not like a in-law suite, all right?
Yeah, we're trying to achieve an in-law suite just above that garage footprint.
Oh, I see.
Do you have any more questions, Mr. Wilner?
No, sorry.
Oh, no, you're okay. Mr. Euler?
I don't, are we gonna talk to an architect? Is there somebody here?
He's here.
Architect is
Okay,
here.
it might be better for that.
If you could also just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Yep, Andrew Danher, 10426 Kingston in Huntington Woods. Architect working with the Glens on their house and Dale Good Courage and trying to kind of balance a few things, which we've already talked about today. Sort of right-sizing it. We've looked at the other houses on the street. We think the width of the house isn't excessive. Are there things that we could take out of the house? Possibly, but the main goal of the original project was in-law suite, and how do we bring them into a house on a site within a neighborhood they wanted to live and try to keep everyone in the house together. For a little while, we looked at potentially lower level in-law suite with different ways of connecting, but trying to keep some of the existing setbacks. So the front setback has remained the same. We've held that line hard. We've held the east side line hard, which we talked about as well. And the slight skew to it is what puts us over on that side. But where originally we thought we were requesting a single variance, we ended up having to create two of them, as we talked with Megan about it. So, and I can answer any questions that you have, I guess, if there's specific ones.
My question might sound weird, but so let's say you didn't use the existing foundation. Would it be possible to put this house this size somewhere on the property without needing a variance?
I think we'd still end up with one.
You would?
In this scenario, we either push it the 7.5 inches to the west, and then we still have a potential need on the other side. And if we were to try to shrink it in the 3.5 feet total, there'd be really no reason to do an addition. And it was trying to create enough living space that was compatible with the other larger houses on the block, so.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Ward?
What is going to be the final square footage of the new house?
3259. It should show up on the first page of the.
3259?
SP1.1.
Okay,
And
okay. 3259.
Yes.
does that count both stories in that 3250?
That's the whole thing, yeah. We
Okay.
went through these numbers a lot with.
So what would just the ground floor plan, just as far as the
A little bit
ground
over
floor?
1100, so 1144.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask
Really,
a
most of the volume is up. yeah.
clarifying question on
Yes.
that? Does that include the garage area? where
Not the garage, because it's, well, it includes the stair, which is counted as technically livable because it's the
Thanks.
access to second floor, but not the actual space that's for the cars.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, are there any more questions for the petitioner?
And we meet all the lot coverage requirements, so we're not over on percentage. And actually, when you count first floor not touching the whole volume, we've actually are well under for impervious area and water infiltration into grade. So there was conscious effort to try to keep most of the living above for that very reason. We know Berkeley has a lot of issues with water and yards, so we think that this is a way to kind of mitigate some of that and not build on the whole site, which we would also could have been permitted to do.
Yes, Ms.
Yeah.
Ward?
So you're keeping within the 35% of the parcel?
Yeah, I think we're actually a total of 23.37.
Is that on SP 1.2?
Yeah, it's in the, like, right-hand side, there's a series of calcs. They're actually, when you printed it. That's the,
I don't see
Sorry.
that. Oh, I do, okay.
Yep, there we go.
it's probably really
Here it is.
small at 11 by 17,
Okay,
but.
total coverage, okay.
Yeah, this came through the building official, and when he first saw it, he identified at least, he thought he identified 3 variances. And then when we sat down and looked at it, actually, the way it sits in the plans, it looks like it would take more than 35%. But because of how large the rear of the lot is and how they've respected that setback of where
actually
the house and the garage were, you still have that full backyard.
No, let's see, showing 3.
And the
Yes, yeah.
staff and the building official did express to the applicant that the less variances, the better.
And some of the discussion about balance was truly something
That's
that we
only the
were
first
working with
floor.
the Glens on, trying to make sure the house looked balanced. And in the side that we knew we were impinging upon, and I think it was mentioned in the original discussion, we tried to keep that at a 1-story height so that it was less obtrusive to the eastern residents.
I do have one question. It says here that the first floor is 23.37, and then the total coverage, which includes the first-story addition plus the porch, gives you 25,994, which is actually 34.6, so you're still under. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so it's not the 23. Okay.
So it's not the, okay.
Okay, are there any other questions? If not, we will close this portion of the meeting. Thank you. Okay, so,
Public hearing.
pardon me?
Public hearing.
Yeah, we have no letters, and we have nothing except for what they've addressed. They're gonna put them in, we're gonna put those into the file. So at this point, I will, ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak, about this particular, or these 2 particular requests for variances.
Hi, my name's Mike Kirby, 2652 Gardner. Lifetime resident, longtime member of this distinguished board. Any rate, taking a look at this overall design, it looks like a pretty good design. It's a good idea that they've come up with here. I know in looking at our new master plan, we're looking at trying to move in a different direction as far as our garages are, maybe our small homes, or trying to retain some of our older residents here. And I think that this idea really flows into that very well. I think moving forward, this would be a good plan. I believe on other properties of this size. Might it work on the 40-footers? It might not work on those ones, but I think on these larger lots, this is a good plan. Well thought out, trying to keep the permeable surfaces to a minimum, and do the minimum to keep a older family here in Berkeley along with their next generation. So I think it's a good idea, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience who wishes to speak? If not, we will go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting, and I'll go back and open it up to my fellow ZBA members to discussion or motion or questions. Ms. Ward?
As many of my fellow board members know, I am very concerned about placing as I call them, McMansions, on a postage stamp size parcel of property. And I know that the city of Birmingham has put a moratorium on building the larger homes on the smaller parcels of property. Even though this conforms to the lot coverage of being under 35%, I'm concerned about runoff from storms and things like that. We do not have the best sewers in Berkeley. Many of the homes that were originally built and that the sewer system was designed for are what we call Berkeley bungalows. When you start adding these larger homes, my concern still is we need the water to go into the ground, not into the catch basins. And I understand that this particular proposal, this project, does conform to the 35%, but it seems like it's top-heavy. And so you're going to have rainwater or whatever, storms, snow, and it's not going to actually hit the ground because the top part of the house is so large that it's going to be difficult for it to find the grass areas, the dirt, etc. I understand the concern or the need to maintain the existing foundation and that it's only 4.5 inches that is being requested in this situation. The other one, the other variance makes me nervous. And so that's basically where I stand right now with this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Well, as far as the variance on the west side, I have no issue with that. If you go from front to back, it averages out to the 5 feet. But on the east side, that's where I kind of have a problem where, I mean, that room could be pushed in. I mean, aesthetically from the outside, yes, that would change some. But it could be brought in and the kitchen island shrunk up a little bit. I mean, that's a 11'5" island. That's a big island. And so I have a hard time with the second variance.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you know, you could reconfigure it, I guess. I mean, it's almost 3 feet that you're asking for. So there's 5 bedrooms, is that right? 5? I mean, it just seems like maybe they could do something. I don't know how many people are gonna be in the house, but,
Yeah, it wouldn't affect the second floor, which is your sleeping area, and the in-law suite, which I think is
right.
excellent.
But there's 2 full kitchens,
Mhm.
which could be, you know, you could maybe do something
Modify.
with the kitchen. I don't know, it just seems like a,
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Yes, Mr.
The,
Gazan?
the second variance, like my other board members who have already spoken, concerns me. I'm sure that it's done, but it seems it's a common practice to have a room above a garage. But that being a variance as well, just kind of rubs me the wrong way, that I'm sure that the issues with the water, that they will be constructing a new drain and possibly a new rear drain tile along the rear of the property when they're building this, to make sure that the permeable surface that's being taken away is taken care of, replaced with at least a new drain. I know my house, the drain, the house was built in 1972. The drain was from the 1930s, and it was clay. It fell apart when we dug it up and replaced that. And I don't have as much of a front yard as they do here, but it's definitely, on any new construction, should have a new drain.
I don't think that's a requirement. I don't see anything on the plan, and I don't think the city of Berkeley has a requirement for that, right?
Okay.
Constructing any sort of new drains.
Not in the zoning ordinance.
Yeah,
No.
that's not our,
You know, it doesn't fall under our purview.
are there any other comments or questions? Mr. Ular?
So I agree, like some of the stuff that Mr. Kirby said, like the design is beautiful. I think it would probably look nice. My problem, like, it just doesn't meet the 4th criteria. But, you know, you can live there without it. And the reason I bring that up is because, like, as much as I want to give this to you, like, you know, you look at this, if we do that on every single parcel in Berkeley, I mean, how do we say no to the next person? How do we say no to, it's not a person trying to put in an in-law suite, it's just a builder who wants a big old house there, because that's what people want. You know, if you put this same kind of footprint on all these houses everywhere, and I don't know diddly about runoff, like, I don't know if that'll be a problem or not, but, if we're being honest, you can live there without it, because people are, and that's, it stinks, but if we just kind of throw that criteria out, because you have a good design, and we want to keep you here because you're a lifelong resident, and I agree with that, the problem is, going forward every single time, any builder who wants to stick a house this big on this kind of area, it's just, it gets unmanageable, so that's where I'm at.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Ward?
Mr. Euler, you were on the board when we looked at the request on Earlmont for a side yard setback. The people wanted to build an in-law suite.
Was I? I probably said no, right?
And you did say no. I was the only one that said yes, because it really wasn't impinging upon a property owner, but there just wasn't enough side yard setback. The construction was going to be right up next to the gate. And we decided as a board that even though it was a small request, I think it was maybe 6 feet or something like that, 7 feet, that we said that if we give it to one person, then we establish a precedent, and we have to give it to everyone. And my concern, I agree with you, that number 4 hasn't been hit. We have not, the requested variance kind of passes over number 4, which is the criteria which we use in order to determine approval.
Any other comments?
One
Yes,
more
Mr.
comment.
Gazan?
If we,
And we will take them separately, I believe is
Right.
the best way to go about that.
but that was my question. If we were to approve the first variance,
The 4.5 inches, sir. Yeah.
and then disapprove the second variance, does that kill the whole project, or can they reconfigure so that they meet the first variance and not
Design.
the second?
Megan has something to say.
Madam Chair?
Yes, yes.
And Board Member Gazin, under that situation, what you do then is you vary the setback just for that one parameter, and the applicant would need to redesign based on those. So you can
Okay.
absolutely, you can absolutely approve one and deny the other. The viability of the applicant's design is not a criteria for
Okay.
you to judge the case on. It's what the unique circumstances are on the property or the building.
Okay.
So it's in their best interest for us to separate them, because they only have to just redesign one part.
You could construe that way.
I'm just saying, I mean,
Yeah.
if we all agree in principle that 4.5 inches is really,
Insignificant.
right, nothing, because if you look at the front and the back.
And there's a unique condition of the property.
Yes, Ms. Ward?
And I think it's prudent to reuse the existing basement and footings, rather than just demolish the entire house from the basement up, but to reuse the basement for the new construction.
Right, but if they didn't, they could actually shift the whole thing over and probably shorten that living area by a foot and a half or so instead of, but yes, it's gonna
But-
be more expensive, but.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what would the cost be if they didn't, if they demolished the basement of the existing house and had to pour a new basement? What would the cost be?
I'm not supposed to consider that.
Okay.
Although
so-
I will.
But I think that is part of what we do consider, is if we're imposing some.
An undue burden, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, then, I think we're ready for a motion. We will entertain them both. So the first one would be, approval, or to approve or deny the minimum side yard setback, and give them a variance of 4.5 inches when 5 feet is required. And then the second one would be the 15 feet for the total side back set yard, 12 feet, 1.5 inches, and they were requesting a 2-foot, 10.5 inch variance, if I said that correct.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'll move that we approve the minimum side yard setback, which requires 5 feet, and approve the 4.5 inches, which is necessary, and follows the line established by the existing foundation walls. In addition, The need for the variance is due to a unique circumstance, which, the fact that the location of the existing foundation is a unique physical condition of the property. Secondly, the need for a variance is not the result of actions of the property owner. Strict compliance with the ordinance would prevent the property owner from using the property as the petitioner has requested. 4, we've already talked about, and 5, the requested variance will not adversely impact surrounding property, so it will not affect any of the neighbors.
I'll second.
Thank you.
So we have a motion from Ward, a second from Wilner. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Kazoon?
Yes.
Krug?
Yes.
McAlpine?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Wheeler?
No.
Ward?
Yes.
Wilner?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay, and then next up would be the discussion on the second request, which has to deal with the total side yard setback. The proposed dwelling would be 12 feet, 1.5 inches, when a total of 15 is required, and the applicant is requesting a 2-foot, 10.5 inch variance to accommodate the plans as they presented to us. So I will either entertain discussion, question, or a motion on this one. And once again, there are 5 requirements that must be met in order to approve the variance. And those are as well listed here. It's not due to unique circumstances. The need for the variance is not the result of the actions of the property owner or previous property owner. Strict compliance with the ordinance will unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for a permitted use or will render conformity with those regulations unnecessarily burdensome. The requested variance is the minimum variance necessary to do substantial justice to the applicant as well as the property owners. And finally, the fifth question, and we must answer, is the requested variance, or does the requested variance adversely impact the surrounding properties?
Madam Chair.
Ms. Ward?
Looking at the 4th, the requested variance is minimum variance necessary to do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners. From our interim community development director, in describing the scope, it says, while a single-family home can be built on the site that complies with the combined yard setback requirement, a decrease in the width would be necessary. So my feeling is that a revised design would provide the purpose of combining 2 people or 2 families in one residential home. That would be an in-law suite, and then for the family that will live in the main house.
I'd like to make a motion to deny the minimum 15-foot side yard setbacks. I don't see it meeting our first one. The variance due to unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property they're adding on to an existing foundation that they really don't need to go that far. The variance is not the result or actions of the property owner or previous property owners. It is an action of the property owner because they would like to expand this home. The third, strict compliance with the ordinance will unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for permitted purpose and will render conformity of those regulations unnecessary. Doesn't really meet that because the property can definitely be used. Number 4 is the minimum variance necessary to do substantial justice to the applicant as well as the property owners. It might be a minimum variance to them, but to us, I don't see a need for that variance. And then the request of the variance will not adversely impact the surrounding properties, which it would not.
Support.
So, we have a motion by Mr. Krug, a support by Ms. Ward.
Wilner?
Yes,
Yes to
Ward?
deny.
yes, to deny.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're all good.
Do you want me to repeat back the motion?
No, no, you're good.
Yeah.
I just, because when we're saying, I just want to make sure everyone, I believe that's what he wanted to say, and I just want to make sure.
So, Mr. Wilner votes yes.
Yes,
Ms. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Euler?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Chair McAlpine?
Yes.
Mr. Krug?
Yes.
Mr. Grazoon?
Yes to deny.
Motion passes 7-0.
Sorry. We somehow so often find ourselves in a difficult position of looking at something that might look great, but when we have to adhere to the 5 standards that we have been given as justification, it doesn't always make us, put us in a good position. Okay, next up would be any other business. Is there any other business that we have to discuss this evening?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Then next up would be the staff and the board member report.
Unfortunately, I don't have a community development report ready for you at this time. We did get a request in on Friday for a sign variance that I believe will come to you in April, so expect that, expect to have a meeting in April. Also wanted to let you know that I will be on a vacation that was scheduled prior to our contract with you, for office hours, March 25th through April 2nd. I'll be out of the country. My colleague Ben Carlisle can help, but we'll get everything set for your meeting and the notices out before that. But I just want to let you know that I will be out of the country.
Probably a well-deserved vacation.
Please take me with you. Madam Chair, I did have a question. At our last meeting, we approved a hardship case for a variance, and it said in the minutes, Ms. Ward motioned to move to table the side variance, there's no page number on this, the side variance until proper inspection can be made and measurements done to legitimize the actual distance between the 2 dwellings of 2740 Gardner and 2758 Gardner. Was that ever done?
No, I don't believe, but the applicant indicated that they didn't want that
They
variance
withdrew,
anymore.
yeah.
Okay, they withdrew that. Okay, all right. It was just a follow-up. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, Mr. Hennanen, do you have anything to report to us this evening?
Yeah, just 2 items. First, on our marijuana licenses, council passed the first of 2 readings to increase the number of licenses from 3 to 5. And before the change goes into effect, it has to pass 1 more vote a week from tonight on the 21st. And then, as I shared with all of you on email, there's a training tomorrow from the Michigan Association of Planners on Zoning Board of Appeals. That's tomorrow night on Zoom. If you haven't already, but you are interested, you can contact Michael Smith in the city manager's office, and he can get you signed up for free. And this class would meet your continuing education requirements for the fiscal year. For those of you that are new and haven't taken the Citizen Planner course, you need to take that. And if you already have your continuing education, you can take more. So, and in fact, I encourage it. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Do you know if there are any more between now and July?
There are others, yeah. There are also videos on demand, so.
Oh, those are
there-
allowed?
Yes,
Okay.
so that's also, in fact, it's very likely this session will be recorded and made
And
available.
I can watch it?
As well, very likely, yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone at this point from the public who wishes to make a comment? If not, I will officially call the meeting to be adjourned at 7:56. I'm sorry, there's a glare, so that's why I have trouble seeing the clock. But 7:56, thank you very much, and everyone have a good St. Patrick's Day, and we will see everyone in April.
Do we hit the deadline on April's application?